All right, it's November, and November is Diabetes Awareness Month. And did you realize that in the state of New Jersey, about 9% of the adult population has been diagnosed with diabetes? That's way too many people. There's things we can do, however. So if you want to know a little bit more on this subject, stay tuned. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Yeah, it's November. November is a lot of things, but it's also Diabetes Awareness Month, and my guest today knows a lot about that. So say hi to Autumn Dempsey. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So Autumn, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what is your role in the Barnabas Health System?
So, I'm a registered nurse and a certified diabetes educator and care specialist. I am the regional program coordinator for Monmouth Medical Center in Long Branch, New Jersey, and Monmouth Medical Center South in Lakewood, New Jersey. And these are outpatient programs that offer services to the community for people that want to either learn more about diabetes, how to self-manage their diabetes. We offer diabetes courses where we meet once a week for 4 weeks, individual counseling, and we also do a outpatient medical nutrition therapy program for people that have other needs, nutrition needs for chronic complications, for example, like high cholesterol or DASH diets. We have registered dietitian that provides those services as well to children and adults.
So Autumn's info is on the screen. If you want to reach out to the organization, if you feel like you need any specialized help, there's a phone number right on the screen. Now, Autumn, when you look at these statistics of nationwide and in New Jersey, almost 10% of the population really is diagnosed with diabetes. I mean, as a diabetes educator, how does that feel?
So diabetes has been really at epidemic proportions for a very, very long time. And it's not just New Jersey, it's
Oh, no, not at all.
but New Jersey in particular. So there's contributing factors. We've changed over time. So you can go anywhere from just access to food, types of foods, to the way that we work. We're sitting a lot more. We're not as active as we were like 30, 40, 50 years ago. Things are very convenient. We don't have to grocery shop even anymore. We can get it delivered to our front door. So things like that, little things that maybe don't seem like such a big deal in the moment, but over time contribute to changes physiologically. And in the world of diabetes, a lot of it is lifestyle driven.
Yeah.
So, we're seeing younger and younger people being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which traditionally was always like an adult type of disease.
Yeah.
Where type 1, we would think more about maybe children, and it was rare and it wasn't something you saw often. Well, now we're seeing children being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, which is always going to evolve into diabetes if left unaddressed. So, that's increasing the numbers as well. You're having people statistically at the highest rate being diagnosed.
And then, of course, and we're just talking about the people that have been diagnosed. And I'm sure there's just a tremendous amount of people that are in the pre-diabetes state and people who maybe don't even know. And because it's interesting that lifestyle, we've talked about this, is a huge part of it. So what are some things that we could say to people, whether you're pre-diabetic or you even have diabetes, what are some things in our lives that we could make some of these small changes that would have big effects?
Absolutely. I think it's important. Education remains like the core of good diabetes self-management and really any chronic condition. Whenever we're diagnosed with anything, we should do our best to educate ourselves on what exactly we're experiencing. But when we're dealing with things like diabetes, pre-diabetes, because so much of the management is self-driven, meaning something like reducing the amount of cereal you put in your bowl in the morning, going for a walk on your lunch break after you eat your lunch for 5-10 minutes, little things like that make a world of a difference. Maybe when you're shopping in the grocery store, stay to the outside, around the perimeter versus the center aisles, or do more of that. Go out of your way to add an extra scoop of vegetables on your plate. There's just different things. Avoid sugary drinks. That's a huge one. And this is across the board, children and adults. Just stay away from the fruit juices and the sodas. Things like that make a really big difference when we're talking about glucose metabolism, weight gain and loss, so which all plays a role in blood sugar management. So things like that without any like formal education with a dietitian or a diabetes educator, just that will have a positive impact.
You talked about self-management, and of course, you can take classes in diabetes management, you can see educators, you can go to a nutritionist, but at the end of the day, you come home.
Correct.
That's where self-management really comes into play. And so whether you want to call it self-management or self-control, right? It's on you, especially with diabetes, because there's so many things that you can do or you don't do or you shouldn't do, but it's those little things that you might be doing every day that creep up on you.
Absolutely.
Little by little.
And programs like ours are there to educate, but also to support. There are certain benefits that people are entitled to when it comes to certain chronic conditions, and focusing specifically on diabetes. The diabetes mandate allows Medicare recipients to participate in diabetes education based on need, and it is covered by Medicare's, their portion, their 80%. So we want people to take advantage of that because there are skills that will carry you through. They're not just these quick fixes. It's really about lifestyle modification and learning how different foods affect the blood sugar and how to eat the foods we enjoy without a negative impact. And that's stuff that we're going to do. Like I said, it's not a quick fix, but it's things that you can do forever just to continue to stay on track. But we have to make, or the patient, has to make the decision to apply those things. It's like we give you the tools, but you have to use those tools.
My dad would always say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And guess what? That expression still makes sense.
Correct. And diabetes is unique. It's not like other chronic conditions where you say, okay, this pill is going to correct this as long as you take it every day and don't skip your meds. And diabetes management is a very unique experience. There are medications universally used, but the way everybody responds to those medications, what other things need to be done with those medications is going to vary by individual. So it's so much more, you have to apply more of your actions to managing your diabetes than just like taking the meds every morning. So that's why the education is so important.
Right. A little more effort on your part to, again, the self-management. And I feel like one of the misconceptions with diabetes is that it's all about deprivation. I can never eat this. I can never have chocolate. I can never have that. And that's not really true. Maybe just address that. It's not about deprivation.
No, not at all. It's not about, you don't have to, I always say, you don't have to eliminate anything from the diet, right? Outside of maybe like a few things that we say, no, nobody should be having these things, but that doesn't mean if you go out for your anniversary, you can't have that, like a soda or, even when it comes to desserts, there's people that are really, really healthy individuals. They're of a healthy weight. Metabolically, they're healthy and they still enjoy food, right? And they can still go out to dinner or still celebrate the holidays because it's about moderation, balance, portion control. So you can eat the things you enjoy as long as you know how to do that. And that's why learning the skills are so important. Because if we go into it with just deprivation, restricting, like the word diet, which has always been like has a negative, I feel like, connotation to it.
Like a real 4-letter word.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as we, are able to understand, like, nobody can eat a sleeve of cookies every day. Nobody, doesn't matter who the person is, but that doesn't mean you can't have 2 cookies after your lunch or, with a cup of tea later on. Like, sure, you can do that. But you have to understand, it's just the 2 cookies. You can't go back and have 4 more, right? So
right.
These are learned behaviors. And sometimes we do so much habitually. It's about breaking certain food habits. We've been conditioned, stinking thinking when it comes to like diet and diet products and sugar-free products and things like that. So it's kind of changing the way people think about food, and of course, maintaining healthy relationships with food, because that's a whole other issue when it comes to any nutrition driven disease. We still have to
That's
maintain.
something to be addressed in another episode of FYI.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually.
Yeah.
That's a topic, maintaining healthy relationships with food. Food isn't the enemy,
Well, I think with diabetes, because at SCAN we offer diabetes self-management workshops as well, different than what you offer. But one thing that we have seen universally is that people have this mindset that I'm diagnosed with diabetes, deprivation. And I always say to people, think of it as there's so many things you can have. You're focusing on so many negative things. Yes, you can have a cookie. All right, nobody should be having a sleeve of cookies. Nobody. But stop thinking. I mean, it's really, there's a lot going on up here.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe that is the thing about your relationship with food. Yeah, maybe that is part of it. And we have to modify. And the word modification or modify, that's a tough one. Moderation. A lot of people don't get what that means.
We have a distorted perception, right? So like think about plates, for example, the size of an average kitchen plate, right? So kitchen plates, I used to tell this story all the time when I taught classes more about cabinets in the original house that I had, and how tight none of the plates fit in the cabinet. I couldn't understand, like, how did anybody use this kitchen? Like, these plates don't fit. Well, because the size of a dinner plate has evolved, like it's gotten so much bigger. And that's we have this, we fill our plate, and then it's been drilled into us, don't waste food, right? Happy plate syndrome, like clean plate club, like all of these things that have to do with stuff we were told as a child that carry us all the way through to adulthood. Then we do it to our children. And that's where the thinking part comes in, and changing some of that, because you don't need part of the clean plate club. You don't need to have a happy plate. You don't need to, it's okay, save it for tomorrow. You can have leftovers. There's nothing wrong with that, because people are eating just to eat without really respecting if they're hungry or not. And that's part of the problem too, because if you're doing that 3 meals a day and you're overeating just for the sake of not wasting, for example, that's going to be a problem down the road.
And of course, when you go out to eat at a restaurant, the plate is like a monster plate.
And if it's like a pasta or a rice, something that's inexpensive to make, but they can give, it looks like you're so decadent on a plate, you're getting so much more than, I'm not even going to use like suggested serving, but more than an appropriate portion. And again, you're paying for that meal. So what do you want to do? You want to eat the meal. You want to enjoy the meal. You don't want to waste any of it. So it's kind of all been ingrained into us. We have to just change the way we look at that.
Well, you're allowed to not finish it and take it home and have it tomorrow. And that's perfectly okay. Or maybe tomorrow and the next tomorrow.
Exactly. Still eat that delicious meal and then have it, like you said, for the next meal, whatever the case may be. But the point is, you don't have to just say, I'm never going to a restaurant again. No, you just have to learn how to do that.
Right. We have to really, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I guess a lot of people still don't understand about making lemonade, and diabetes is a terrible disease, but it can be managed well. But it self-management, that's the problem.
So people, I always would quote a very, I think this was a continuing education program that I went to probably back in 2007, where a presenter had said this, and it stuck with me since then. And I say it often, multiple times a week, right? So I would say this when I taught a class too, what is the leading cause of adult onset blindness, kidney failure, stroke, heart attack, right? Like, what is the leading cause of these things? And often people would say diabetes, of course, because we're here learning about diabetes. And the reality is that it's uncontrolled diabetes that is the leading cause of those complications. Controlled diabetes is the leading cause of nothing. Nobody dies or gets sick or develops another type of chronic condition when they can control and manage their diabetes. You live a long, normal, healthy life. But it's when the diabetes is left unchecked, undiagnosed, uncontrolled, over an extended period, by the way. So like we have time, even if you're sitting there right now thinking, oh man, my A1C has been 10 for the last, 3 years. Okay, fine. But if we do something now, we can still prevent any future issues. So understanding that getting a diagnosis does not mean that these things are guaranteed or you're destined to lose a limb, go blind, go and need dialysis. That's 100% inaccurate. If you manage your diabetes, none of those things will happen.
It's lack of management, uncontrolled diabetes. That's what does it. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, what's wrong with us out there? We can't control ourselves. We all need a little work. We all do.
We all need a little work, I think. And again, I think just the current state of things, I mean, coming even off of, like the lockdowns and everything, I mean, so much had changed. We were working from home. We were, like I said, groceries are being delivered. Everything's being delivered. Don't have to push the cart around the store anymore. I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. You get home from work, you're tired, don't feel like running back out to the shop, right, or whatever. So you get an Instacart delivery, Well, if that once a week you went out and pushed a shopping cart around and then suddenly you stopped doing that.
Yeah, that was almost like
knows that. Yeah. So imagine that's so compounded. And then coming out of quarantine, everybody was kind of locked in their homes. We were kind of vegetating a little bit. It definitely is going to contribute to seeing. I mean, we saw a lot more diabetes, I think, in my opinion, at least here, when the world started to open up again. So I don't know if it was just people were going to the doctors more, or it really had to do with like 2 years of lifestyle, just kind of everything stopping, slowing down, and we're not as active as we were. It's definitely playing a part, but it's combatable.
That's what I want people to understand, that there are things you can do, but you need to do them. You need to take the step. Autumn is not coming to you. You need to go to her, right?
Correct.
Not making house calls.
That's it. Oh gosh, not yet, but yeah. Well, no house calls. Yeah, but we do. But interestingly, I would say there's like a silver lining to everything. So coming out of the pandemic, one of those silver linings was that Medicare, because Medicare kind of dictates everything. But again, when you have commercial, we see patients with commercial insurances, Medicaid, charity care, self-pay, whatever, that's a non-issue. But Medicare kind of sets the rules for everybody. So coming out of that, it did allow us, first of all, we had to learn a way to do things differently, which created this whole opportunity for like virtual visits, where now we can do telemedicine and virtual visits, which has been great for working people that maybe don't have transportation, or there's childcare issues. Like this has really given access to so many more people than we were able to get to before. So that is definitely one of the positives that's come out of this. So we've really made it simple for you to get the education. You can come in, but you can even do it from home, like we're doing it right now on a video chat.
So Autumn, I mean, again, November, National Diabetes Awareness Month, and just a couple of tips, like maybe some nothing is quick. I don't mean to use that word, but some lifestyle changes that aren't going to be painful, things that people might consider doing, and maybe turn your health around.
Sure. I think number one, and this goes for children and adults, is really try to, if not eliminate, reduce the amount of drinks that have carbohydrate in them, right? So like fruit juices, sodas, milk, things that maybe lemonade, sweet teas. Just because something says that it's 100% natural, or fresh squeezed, or little preservatives, whatever the case may be, it doesn't change the fact that those things are the simplest form of carbohydrate. So they are having an impact on everyone's blood sugar. It doesn't matter if you're diabetic or not. So that is something that makes the body work hard, right? Your pancreas has to work even harder than it should when you're consuming those things. And that's what eventually, if that's happening chronically, poops out your pancreas over time. So I think eliminating the sugary drinks is number one. I think number two, commit to 10 minutes a day of activity, and then increase it as you tolerate it. Add 2 minutes each additional day or every other day, whether it's walking around your office, walking around your apartment building, going for a walk around the block, going up and down your stairs a few extra times during the day. something is better than nothing.
Move, just move. Something is better
Just
than
move.
nothing. Right.
Yeah, just move and stop skipping meals. Breakfast is imperative. Skipping meals is not going to effectively help you lose weight in the end. You may see an initial weight drop, and that feels good and that's great, but it's not sustainable, and it's not the right type of weight loss that it will continue to happen. So stop skipping meals. Like you mentioned deprivation before. I think depriving yourself of anything you really enjoy that's legal and healthy, and that, it's nothing that's going to hurt you, right? But depriving yourself of things that you enjoy only is going to end in a binge.
It's not
It's almost a
sustainable.
guarantee. Yes. So allow yourself certain things, but even if it means like, what, I'm going to have that third cookie. Well, next time I'm really going to stick to two. Sometimes it's a process, but the things that go in a process where you really learn how to do it is going to be so much more successful than all of this like cold turkey, cut and dry, intermittent fasting, all this other stuff that's out there, ketogenics, things like that. They're just not sustainable. Diabetes isn't going anywhere. We don't have a cure for type 2 diabetes, right? We cannot repair the damage to the beta cells in the pancreas, at least not yet. So we have to stop it in its tracks and prevent it from progressing and getting worse. And that's a forever thing. So you have to learn skills that you can do forever, not things that are a quick fix. It's just, it never works. It may work in the moment, but in the long run, you're back to square one.
And diabetes is about the long run.
It's about the long run. Diabetes is about chronic complications. There are some acute things that can happen in the world of diabetes. They're rare, they're unusual, but it's about chronic progression. It's a progressive disease, but if you nip it in the bud, it doesn't have to get worse or bad at all once you identify that it's there.
Another reason to go to your doctor, have your blood work done, get your A1C done. Every time I go to the doctor now, I never knew about this before, but I always have my A1C checked. You want to be a smart consumer, and even as a patient, tell your doctor.
That's the world we live in now. Healthcare is so different today than it was even when I started 20 years ago, and probably much different 20 years before that.
Yes.
We are living in a world where we have to be our own advocate. There is exceptions to every rule, but you really got to I always say, write a list, right? Take a little notebook, write a few things down before you go to the doctors, rip that piece of paper out, just so you remember to ask those certain questions. Ask for the tests that you think you need for wellness purposes, like the A1C, cholesterol.
Right.
Just because our time is limited with our providers, and that's another good conversation for another day, but the time is limited with the providers, so you want to get the most bang for your buck out of that time you have with them, and going in prepared with questions on what you can do, what you can utilize around the community, what tests could you have done just to stay on top of your health.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, self-management, guys, that's really what we're talking about here.
Always come back to that. In the end, we are accountable and responsible for ourselves, not the doctors, not the educators, not the nurses, not the social workers. We are accountable for our own success and failures. So, I've said it before, like certain programs like mine, for example, will provide you with the tools. We're there for the support emotionally, nutrition wise, obviously, but we can't come to your house, cook your meals, plate your food, feed you.
If only, Autumn.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having somebody come and prepare.
I know. I'll take advantage of that when that happens.
Yeah.
Autumn, I really appreciate this conversation today. Again, November, Diabetes Awareness Month. There's a number on the screen. If you want to get more information, don't hesitate to reach out, because help is there for you. But like everything else, you have to ask for it. But it is available.
It is available, and it is covered by most insurances. And we also have, like I said, children services for pediatrics and adults. I personally tend to work with a lot of pregnant women with either gestational diabetes, type 1 or type 2 diabetes. So we have a lot of really good services here. And if it's something that we don't do, we know where to refer you to that will be able to help you. There's so much in the community as well. If you just go to your town's community center and look and see what free programs exist. There's the Live Well program in Eatontown. They have stuff all the time on nutrition and risk reductions, and those are all free to the community.
Free is a good price, everybody.
Free is
Take
good.
advantage.
Free is good. Absolutely.
Well, Autumn, I'm so appreciative of you being with me today. And remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone. And
Bye.
take care.